2, 3. We got it.
We got this.
Are we live, Jeff?
Yeah.
You gonna give us a
Oh,
countdown?
no.
Do we get a countdown?
No, we're live. We're talking.
What the
It's
shit?
already happening.
Oh
We
my
are
God,
live
we're
right
already
now.
Everybody's
live.
in.
Everyone's already heard all of this. We're so screwed.
No, I turned off the audio last time.
Oh, all right. Well, let's get started. Welcome to the Grit City Podcast. I am Justin.
Buenos dias, mi amo Brogan.
Brogan's here.
Man, I almost jumped on him. It was close.
I know you did.
My mouth is drooling. All I can smell is that bacon.
I know.
I'm Scott.
I'm Jeff.
And we are here at the Union Club in downtown Tacoma. You may hear some really weird sounds in the background over here. And guess what that is? That's Brogan. Brogan decided that he wanted to cook some bacon.
I did, and it is delicious. I bought 5 pieces of bacon just so we have grease for later.
And this is kind of interesting because the last time you had bacon, well, I'm not going to say the last time you had bacon because I think you've had bacon since
The
you went on
last
your
time we
camping trip.
discussed me having bacon.
Yeah, so don't eat that bacon because the last time you died, almost died. Thank God that we had Jason from Castle Security and Protection, which is a lovely patron for us, castlesecpro.com to get your consultation needs and also your bacon life-saving needs. So, yeah, what are you doing now, Brogan? What are you doing today?
Well, since it's been a minute since I came in, I figured I had to at least feed you guys a little bit.
Nice.
So I got some stuff for some breakfast burritos, and a little later I got some stuff for some steak and some shrimp tacos.
Woo.
And we're just, I'm just going to cook and bullshit and
This is exciting.
feed you.
I love it. If people want to get a hold of us, they can do so info@gritcitypodcast.com. If you go to gritcitypodcast.com, you will find all of our old episodes. Also, you'll find a link to, like I said, our Patreon, where you can help us out for as little as $4 a month. That's basically, $1 an episode. And you can get T-shirts, hoodies. You can get access to all of our old episodes and a ton of other things. And I think Brogan just burnt himself. And And if you want to go all the way up to the business class, like I said, Jason did at Castle Security and Protection, you can do so for a low fee to help us buy new equipment, new gear, be able to go maybe on the road and talk to people and have some fun and definitely that new gear sort of thing.
Buy some bacon.
Yeah, buy some bacon so Brogan can burn himself. But with us today, we've got Travis Weller. Travis, how are you doing today?
Hey, everybody, loving the bacon.
Right?
Yeah.
Congratulations, you
This
get
is a
bacon.
great view. The bacon kitchen. It's great.
Yeah, so we are right now up on the 3rd floor of the Union Club in Tacoma. Scott gave you a tour of the place. What did
Yep.
you think of it?
Man, the history, the ghosts.
Yes.
It's got it all.
It's got the beautiful view, too.
And the view, yeah.
Like, we've had to deal with Snowmageddon off and on for, like, the past, I don't know, like, month and a half or so.
Yep.
And today it's perfectly clear. It's a bright, sunny morning, and the view is fantastic.
Yeah, the mountain's out. Everything's happening.
So, Travis, tell us a little bit about what you do, because you are a part of Nourish Pierce County, correct?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. So I do the grants and communications work for Nourish Pierce County. Nourish is the oldest, largest food bank in Pierce County. So we're serving everywhere from down around Roy and
Oh, wow,
JBLM
okay. Yeah,
all the
yeah.
way out onto the Key Peninsula, as well as right here in Tacoma too.
And so you said it was one of the oldest, or the
Yep.
oldest. Give us a little bit of the history on that.
Yeah. So in the let's go all the way back, guys.
All the way
All the way
back.
back to the 1970s.
Oh, yeah, the 70s,
you
which
know
was
the
a
70s.
a tumultuous time for this area.
Yes. So responding to everything that was happening here in the 70s, there were a group of churches that started food pantries sort of in the basements
Okay.
and like in the spare rooms of the churches. And the community decided that it was time to sort of get those organized into a network and just sort of work together.
Okay.
And so in 1982, Nourish started. We changed our name in 2017. So for 30 plus years, we were known as Fish Food Banks, right?
Was FISH like an acronym or?
Yeah. So Fish stood for Friends in Service to Him.
Okay. Makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. So there's maybe going to be fish later too. Just checking. No,
Yeah.
just bacon. Okay. But yeah, so fish. So there's a lot of fish food banks. It was sort of a common acronym. There are still fish food banks around in the region and nationally. But 2 years ago, Nourish switched our name over to be Nourish Pierce County to sort of signify the network of food banks that we run and we operate.
And
So-
there, I would imagine that when it says fish food banks, it
Yeah.
would be kind of an issue with people just
There's
thinking
a lot of
there
confusion.
would only be
Yeah.
fish.
Yeah, we were getting calls about, do you only give out fish? Are you an aquarium store? Do you, can I buy fish food at your place?
Discount
so-
fish food.
Right. So because of that and because of, those sorts of confusion issues, as well as just sort of to embrace the bigger mission of nourishing people,
Yeah.
we switched our name. Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. I mean, just in thinking about that sort of thing, because one of the things that I recently went to was the State of the City address.
Yeah.
And it was interesting just because my wife is a part of the refugee choir. Like she decided as a New Year's resolution she was going to do this, and
awesome.
like 2 weeks into it, they're like, "We're going to do this performance at this thing," and she's like, "Oh God!" And so I ended up going. But one of the big things that Mayor Woodards was talking about was the homelessness crisis that we're having,
Yeah.
affordable housing, but both with those is also dealing with trying to feed the people in in the city, because with the rising rent costs and stuff like
Yeah.
that, basic things like food it's getting harder and harder for people to be able to actually do
Yep.
on the wages that are quote unquote livable around here.
That's absolutely right. Yeah. So Pacific Northwest, and I mean, we all know what's been happening in Seattle, but even here in Pierce County, the cost of living is a lot higher than the average. I'm making quote marks because this is my first podcast recording. So
Oh, we're live casting, so it doesn't worry.
yeah,
Everyone
exactly.
can see it.
These are my
Just look
quotes.
right at the camera there and
perfect.
the camera there
Uh-huh.
and do it.
They're everywhere.
I forget about them. I forget about them a lot.
I'm
and
surrounded.
Like, posture, stand up straight.
So so the cost of living is really high, but there's still the wages really haven't caught up to what they need to be so that people can be comfortable. And so there's still a lot of service industry jobs. There's a lot of jobs in Pierce County and Tacoma that pay, below a wage that people need in order to afford basic necessities. And so we're sort of we're one resource that people can draw from to sort of fill that gap in. They can come and get food at one of our food banks. Yeah.
And one of the things that I noted in the email that you sent us was a term that I wasn't too surprised about, or I wasn't too familiar with, which was food insecurity.
Yeah.
And so is that kind of that stigma of going to a food bank isn't necessarily the best thing and that you're not doing well, but these are things that are here to help you. So trying to get rid of that food insecurity is paramount for you.
Yeah, so food insecurity refers to it's people always talk about hunger, and hunger has a very specific meaning, which is you're not getting enough calories that day, so you are physically experiencing hunger. Food insecurity is sort of a broader term, which means you're not sure where that next meal is going to come from. There are times in the month where maybe you don't have enough, maybe at the end of the month, you don't have enough money to buy groceries, or that you skip meals so that you can make ends meet. So it's so hunger is usually a physical condition, and food insecurity is this more sort of general idea you're not sure about.
It's that worry
economic
that you're,
instability.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to afford all of that stuff. Okay, that
Right,
makes
right.
a lot more sense on that terms.
But the stigma issue that you brought up is really, I mean, it's definitely powerful. People, people get really nervous their first time they show up at a food bank. They're not sure what to expect. They feel there's a lot of guilt around it sometimes. And we serve a lot of people. We serve a lot of different types of people. We just want to encourage people to get help if they need it. Yeah.
So, if somebody does show up for the first time, what can they expect?
Yeah.
Or what, I don't necessarily want to say to prepare themselves into going into it, but I mean, it's the first thing that comes to mind like that.
Yeah.
You don't need to steel yourself in order to go to one of these things.
We're real scary. Yeah, it's real rough.
We're
no.
here to help you, damn it.
So one easy tip is bring your shopping bags. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Just we don't have that many bags to give out, so that's the first easy thing you can do to prepare. But the bigger question, yeah. So the very first time you come to one of a Nourish food bank, you'll be asked for your name, your address, and your birthday, as well as the birthdays and names too of everybody else in your household that you're getting food for. So if you're picking it up for your kids, we're going to ask for your kids' names as well. You don't have to have an ID, so there's definitely people who have difficulties accessing identification.
But that won't be an issue.
That's not an issue if you show up at one of our food banks. Yep. And then after that first time you get registered, you just have to come in, and it's a lot easier after the first time, right? And we make the access point really low. Like, we want it to be very easy to access because of this stigma thing, right? People are nervous, they're afraid about asking for help. And
Absolutely,
we're
yeah.
just there to
And
try to
so,
help them out.
kind of going even with that food insecurity thing, this is something that people, I would assume, could show up if they're having problems at the end of the month, trying to get to that, right to the last paycheck sort of thing.
Yep.
Do you see people who are there week in and week out as kind of like the stable source for them to be able to get food?
Yeah, so I think, we serve enough people that we're seeing all types of users of the food bank. The average that people come to one of our food banks is 6 times a year.
Okay.
So, drop in once every few months. But there are absolutely people who need help every week, and we see those people too. We have a lot of one-time drop-ins, people who, maybe need help once. Like we saw around the federal government shutdown.
Yeah.
We picked up a few that we've noticed just came in one time, and that's all right too, right? Like,
I've used the food bank 4 times in my life, being
4?
a young father.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And it is very, you really are eating your pride. I mean, I sat in the car and cried before I went into the food bank. I mean, food bank was a rough experience, but the people were genuinely there to help, and the stuff that you got was like real good stuff. Speaking of which, before I forget, I have a trunkload of stuff to donate to a food bank.
Yeah.
In my car. Can I give it to you?
Yeah, I'm on foot today,
Oh,
so but
Okay.
depends on how big
I
the
can
bags
never
are.
find a place
We
to
can-
donate it.
Yeah, we'll talk for sure. We can get it worked out.
And that's a good point too that Brogan just brings up.
Yeah.
How can people help donate food? Can they just show up to one of the locations and bring food by? Is that an easy way to do that?
Yeah. So you can drop by any one of our food banks. We'll take a donation there. You can also call the office. Our central office is down on 72nd. That's our admin office, and we can help you find a place to drop food off.
And if people are interested in finding more information about Nourish Pierce
Yep.
County, nourishpc.org.
Yep.
Pretty simple to do that. Do you guys have social media, anything like that?
We do the socials. Yeah, we got them all. So we're on Twitter and
I was
going
gonna
to
say,
Instagram.
I just saw your Twitter where you
Yeah,
guys are going to PLU, which is kind of a neat thing, right?
Yeah, so we've gone through this really big period of expansion already in 2019. So it's
Congratulations.
still 2019. Yeah. So
yeah, it still is.
one thing that we do that's pretty different from most food banks is we've got 2 mobile food banks. So these are
wow.
like fully retrofitted semi trucks and trailers that move around, right? Because they're on wheels.
You kind of reminded me of a
Yeah.
semi truck driver when
Oh
you
yeah.
came in. I
Yeah,
could
no
see
problem.
that.
Yeah.
You didn't have the cap.
I don't have my cap today. Yeah. But yeah, so we got like CDL certified truck drivers, Randy and Dirk that take the trucks out.
Nice.
So the idea is that you're getting just as much food as if you visited one of our physical food banks. So we've fixed location,
There you
brick
go,
and
yeah.
mortar food banks. So we've got 7 fixed location food banks, and then the mobiles serve, as of this week, 17 additional sites around Pierce County. Yeah. So those are you get a shopping cart, you like push it up the ramp, you check in with our check-in volunteer, and then you
neat.
just like walk down the trailer, and the shelves are lining the sides of the trailer, and you pick the food out that you want.
Cool.
How'd you guys end up coming up with that idea and being able to do that sort of thing? Because it seems
Yeah.
like an involved process
Yeah.
instead of just throwing food into the back of a semi.
Yeah. One thing that I've learned is that the food industry is a lot about logistics, and so we actually had a truck driving company president on our board, Mike, and Mike drove truck and was like, we think we could do this. And so we actually built the first one out in 2011, and we ran that first one to 10 sites for 7 years. And then last year we picked up our second one.
Nice.
Wow.
Shout out to Mike.
Yeah,
Good
right,
job,
yeah,
man.
Thanks, Mike. We appreciate it.
What's his trucking company, Lynn? Just like
Yeah, so it's Mike Moat. So he's retired now.
Oh, okay,
He's,
okay.
He
Plenty
still
of time
does.
to
He still does
concoct all
runs
these
for
things.
us and stuff. Sometimes when we need to buy a shipment, he'll go out and pick up a load for us.
What a cool idea, though.
It's
right?
great.
Yeah,
I mean, it's really like, so the physical, the fixed location food banks, those are awesome too. But there's also certain infrastructure costs, right, that come with having one of those fixed locations. So you stick it on a truck. What we need is a parking lot and people who will let us be there. So we're serving, like, we sit in the empty lot across from the Chevron and Roy.
yeah.
You know Roy.
Oh, there's one road. You're good.
And we just park there and people come out. But the new sites that we've launched this year are all with community and technical colleges. So we've got 5 new sites this year. We just started at TCC back in January. This week we started at Clover Park
Nice.
down on Steilacoom. We're at Bates, and then we do 2 spots at Pierce College campuses. So
awesome.
Fort Steilacoom and the Puyallup campus. Because we know that college students are experiencing hunger too.
Well, and that's an interesting point too, because like when Bergen was talking about, like, he was doing it with he had a young child.
Yeah.
So you think maybe adults between 20 and 30 or so, but then you also got to figure out the under 21 crowd,
Yeah.
college students, and then even younger, and then also the elderly crowd, the seniors. Are those big numbers in the people that partake in Nourish, or is it about the same across the board?
Yeah. So we, for our clients, they about 17% of them are seniors, and then a full third of our clients are kids, so 18 and under.
Wow. Okay.
So that's usually like a parent picking up food for the household, right? But so that means that over half of our population that we serve are from one of those 2 populations,
Damn.
either seniors or kids. This, so this question of like college hunger, I think sometimes people have this idea of college kids, and I don't know that that's always as accurate anymore, right?
Well, I like
Especially with community colleges.
Yeah, I'm trying to
Right.
think. It's like,
That's what I
well,
was thinking.
eating a lot of ramen.
Right.
I remember that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you could just sustain on ramen and Mountain Dew.
But I think what he's saying is that there's a lot of people, older people going back to secondary schools, like
Yeah.
community colleges.
Oh,
people
God,
that
yeah,
are
you're
already
right.
parents.
Or you're in tech school because you're like getting a certification,
Or
but
single parents. A lot of single parents go to stuff like that.
Good call.
and you might have to like cut your hours back at work because you're trying to get your next certification, your next degree. And so if we can be there sort of as a stabilizing force during that period where there's some insecurity, right? But also a lot of those college campuses are right in the communities that also need help, right? We're down on Steilacoom Boulevard and Lakewood, out in Puyallup. So we're in all these different spots. So those spots are also open to the public. It's nice to have them on campus, and we're so grateful for those campus partners, but it's also that community around those colleges, right in the center of TCC on 19th. We're happy to be there.
Perfect. I want to change gears a little bit,
Yeah.
Travis. Are you from around here originally?
Yeah. Do I not have the Tacoma accent?
No, I just always wonder because we have so many transplants, and
Yeah.
I've been genuinely surprised when someone's like, "Oh no, I'm not from around here." To be perfectly honest, when we had the Grit City Mag people on, when we had Sierra on,
Did you listen to that one?
I haven't listened to that one.
Oh, okay.
It's a good one. I figured that he was from the Seattle Tacoma area. And it's he just had that sort of look. Came from San Francisco, so it's kind of that same sort of vibe. But you look like a Tacoman.
Oh, thanks.
But at the same point, I'd never want to generally assume. So how long have you been in?
I'm from Kansas. I'm a Kansas boy. So I've been here since August.
Oh, that's the boots. I see them
coming
now.
up.
All right, I got you.
There we
I'm
go.
with you.
Yeah. We can see it.
I'm just teasing it.
Yeah. So it's been. I mean, I have been so impressed with Tacoma. The people are really incredible. Like your coffee guy is like, "Hey, what's up?" what are you doing today?
Actually
And I'm
talking to
like,
you?
I'm like, oh, are you asking that question? You like want to know the answer to this?
It's one of those things. If you're not from Tacoma,
Yeah.
it will be a bit of a culture shock.
Yeah.
Especially even if you're just from somewhere from like Seattle.
Yep.
Because no one will talk to you in Seattle.
No.
In Tacoma, evereverybody will talk to
People
you.
are
That's
like
not
chatty.
true. That's not true.
What?
That's not true. That's not true. Well,
Those are the
people
rules.
talk to you in Seattle. It's the lady that's carrying the rat in her purse on the bus. That's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
lady
yeah,
that's
yeah.
going to talk to you. Right?
Oh yeah, is that how that was? Is that working out
I
for you,
have
dude?
pictures. I'm not even joking.
There's a rat?
Well, ferrets. She had
Oh.
4 ferrets in her purse, dude.
4 of them?
Yeah,
I
I'll
can
post
under-
a picture later.
I can understand maybe one.
That's a lot of ferrets.
That's a lot of ferrets.
I said only 4.
So,
But so
yeah.
this like niceness thing, right? So we are, Nourish is completely reliant on the community, right? Like we have almost 1,000 volunteers every year.
Wow.
Which is like ridiculous. Every single one of those mobile stops needs 5 volunteers usually on average for every shift, and the fixed location food banks, they tend to need like 10 to 15. And so we had 83,000 volunteer hours recorded last year,
Wow.
which is like 40 full-time staff people. Like we are like Nourish has a relatively small staff, and we're big in terms of the number of people that we serve, but really we're there like we're a conduit for the community to help the community,
And, and like when you're talking about volunteering,
Yeah.
everyone knows, like Brogan was talking about, to donate food.
Yeah.
But what can people do? Because you don't necessarily know, like anyone show, I want to volunteer and help.
Yeah.
What can they do when they're there? What
Yeah.
is like if they've got any sort of specialty or anything along those lines?
Yeah. So it takes all types to make a food bank run. So we have there's a volunteer who's usually sitting at the check-in computer, and so that very first like greeting people, how does this work? You have to have some of that sort of like customer service, like welcoming people. Then we have a shopping system, so people don't get a bag of food, right? You don't show up and you just get handed what you
Okay.
want or what we want you to have. You actually walk through an aisle and you're picking things off shelves. So you'll have choices, right? So you'll be like, you get like for your family size, you can have this much fruit, but like, here's what we have for fruit today. Which of these things do your kids like, and
Okay,
which do you
cool.
like, or what fits your like religious or health needs, right? And so there's a volunteer that walks with people as they shop. So that's really, I just did did a distribution shift up at the spot we've got at Marybridge. We have a mobile parking spot there. I just did that on Thursday, and it's really like giving people those choices and like handing them the food or having them grab it and watching that happen is really powerful. Then we've got like stocking the shelves. I mean, we need everything.
Oh,
So-
look at that,
Oh,
Brogan's bringing some
tacos have
food.
arrived.
He's getting some tacos. Yeah, give me some of those tacos. Did you put hot sauce on these? Yep. Uh-oh, he put hot
good,
sauce
good.
on these.
Yeah.
I put salsa on it.
Okay, he put salsa.
Yeah.
All right, sweet.
Okay.
We can't hear you, Brogan. You should probably talk into a microphone if you're going to talk about stuff. So,
Brogan just keeps talking. Brogan's
Whatever.
going on.
Chef Brogan Ramsey, what delectable treats did you make
Yes,
for
what's
all of
this?
us?
Well, those are just some tortillas with some cheesy eggs, some delicious hot salsa, and a little sour cream, and some Tony Sachere. For those of you that want to know what Tony Sachere
Yeah.
is, that is the all-purpose seasoning that stole Johnny's Seasoning's wife, stole his kids,
Whoa.
and is just all the which way all about better than Johnny's stupid-ass seasoning. So
Oh, don't you hate on Johnny's? Johnny's is
Fuck
an
Johnny's.
institution down
It's
here.
local.
You
I know,
simmer
but
down
I'm
there,
from
buddy.
Louisiana, and Tony Sachere is just all around better.
This is the point where we're eating.
Right. People love it when we eat on
Yeah.
the podcast. If you eat right into the mic with crunchy stuff, that's the best.
Yeah, I know. Makes
Don't
me
throw them plates away. We're gonna have to reuse them.
Dude, these are pretty good, man.
These are really good. These are really good. It
I'll get
remi-
my bag of chips out later.
Right. Well, it reminds me of the episode we had with the Tacoma Hops lady, and we're just sitting here. Oh, this is so good, and she's like giving us like drink and food combinations, and we're like, oh, this is great. Crunch, 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 crunch.
Yeah.
And I'm just like losing my mind over German chocolate cake.
Yeah. Most of the podcast is me going, yummy. into the mic.
Yeah. The reaction shots.
Yeah.
That's what
And
that is.
so, are there other ways that Nourish gets food other than donations? I would have to imagine that Well, I guess like do local grocery stores, are they able to help out this sort of thing, or how
Yeah.
does that even work out?
Yeah, so we, we have a warehouse off of South Tacoma Way. It's big and full, usually, hopefully. And so we have to fill that. We are super appreciative of the food donations and food drives that people run, but we get most of our food. There's in a few other ways. So there's a pretty big food distribution network to nonprofits in the Puget Sound area. So Emergency Food Network, Food Lifeline, Northwest Harvest.
Oh yeah, Northwest
Are
Harvest.
these
yeah.
like big food distributors that get food out to food banks, and so we have partnerships with all of those, and so they EFN, Emergency Food Network, has the contract on federal commodities, so we also get food that the federal government has helped out with.
Okay.
And so we get federal commodities, we get the sort of large food that large bulk food from these big food distributors, and then we have to purchase some just to make sure that we've got everything on our shelves at all times. And then we do partner with grocery stores. So grocery stores have to get stuff off their shelves sometimes, but they're still safe to eat and they're still
Yeah.
like good. And so we'll send a truck out. We've got partnerships with about 100 grocery and retail spots, even
Wow,
like
nice, okay.
7-Eleven and like Starbucks stores and things like that.
Cool.
If people need to get rid of stuff, then we'll go and turn it around and get it out to people.
And on that sort of mark, you said something about food drives.
Yeah.
And are people able to host food drives? Like, I don't necessarily say like in your name, but if they want to do
Yeah.
something in their community, that then they can say these will go towards Nourish Pierce County,
Yeah.
and then they can just give those to you in the bulk at the.
Apparently,
at
talk to
whatever bulk.
Brogan because he's been doing the
I ran a
collecting
food drive
for
at
us.
my business, and I haven't been able to figure out what to do with the food.
Yeah, so you can absolutely run a food drive. If you want to reach out to us in advance, we can get you like a barrel or something. But
Nice.
it's also okay to just collect food on your own and then give us a call.
Will you do like collections or anything along those lines, or do you prefer people to drop it off?
Usually people should drop it off, but we
Okay.
do try if we have staff or somebody
yeah.
around, then we can try and send one of our folks out to pick stuff up too. The things we need the most in those food drives are like canned protein, like canned chicken or
Oh.
spam.
I've got a bunch of
or,
canned
like,
chicken in my trunk.
See,
I got canned ham.
See, that's a
I got
really good
gravy,
phrase.
I got
I'm
you
pretty
some
happy
mashed
with that.
potatoes.
See,
I got a lot of canned chicken in my trunk.
I don't know since you've only been here for like not for a year yet.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've come across the trunk meat sellers.
Oh,
Okay.
Classic.
Yeah,
Tacoma.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I've had this twice. When I first moved to Tacoma with my wife, like literally one of the first people that came up to my door was a man trying to sell meat out of his trunk.
Oh.
And then another person hit us up at that Arco down by off of Puyallup in Portland. Like that what used to be an Arco that they said, screw you, Arco, we don't want to run by your rules, so we're going to do it ourselves. And it's someone who will, it's like you've heard of the car stereo scam where they're like, oh, we got speakers out of the van, we'll sell it to you for hella dirt cheap. This is meat. So I mean, like if
It's in a can.
they say, well, no, these are like steaks that are not in a can.
They're usually vacuum sealed, right?
yeah.
They
No,
are,
they
right?
still have
They're
the
like-
Safeway price tag on them from where they stole them from Safeway. No, that guy came into the bar by my old house.
No way.
Every Friday, and it was amazing. He'd have like the most ridiculous cuts of meat, and I'm just wondering, I'm like, man, that guy walked all the way up here in the hot sun with that.
See, you don't know what you're gonna get with
Yeah.
that. So I mean, if you need meat like that, maybe not go there.
Give 'em
Maybe
20
not talk to
bucks
those
or
people.
100
Go to
bucks for the
Nourish
meat.
and get something there.
There you go.
Get
Yeah.
some nice protein there that way.
Don't buy
Don't
street
don't
meat.
give money to those people. We do not.
Street meat.
The Grit
Yeah.
City Podcast does not support trunk meat.
No, we do not support trunk
Just
meat.
the donations that are currently in Brogan's trunk.
This is true.
Yeah, that's different. That's totally different.
The meat that I have in my trunk, totally different from the meat that you're gonna get from somebody else.
But I do like the fact that you have that selection because, I mean,
Yeah.
I remember doing canned food drives at school, and it's literally raiding your pantry for, like, the garbanzo beans and, like, every source of bean that you never want
Yeah.
your mom to cook. And so having the choice of being able to actually have, I don't want to say real food, but, like, the food that you want to eat.
Right.
That's a big thing with that.
Yeah, and we try and treat all of our clients with compassion, dignity, and respect, right? And so we want the experience to be as close to what you would normally have
Mm-hmm.
as when you visit one of our food banks. We want, people deserve to have a meal.
Yeah.
And so
Oh,
we
absolutely.
we want to be able to provide that experience. The other thing that we really recommend with food drives is that you combo it with a fund drive, so that
Oh, good call. Yeah.
food and funds, so that if people don't want to, bring a canned item, they can stick some cash in a jar or something like that too. Because we purchase in bulk, we can usually get stuff for a lot cheaper than you can just shopping at
That makes
grocery
sense.
store.
That makes sense. Or maybe just hit up the cash and carry.
So let's people deserve a
I
meal.
love cash and
Can
carry.
we let him just eat his? Can
Oh,
we take
yeah.
a break? Get a beer.
Yeah,
let
yeah,
him
yeah,
eat?
yeah, yeah. We'll get a beer, take a break, and come back in a minute with the guys. Yes.
I'll do some dishes.
Nice.
diesel. This is what I was worried about right here.
That would get people in.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know if you have the ghetto mic stand or not.
Is it just up too high? Is it sliding down on you?
I don't know.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah, hold on.
Just shorten it.
You're fucking short.
Look at that. There you go.
There, and now you can adjust it.
Straddle it.
Ooh. Maybe. Actually, that might not be a bad idea. Put your pole between my legs.
Ah, Jesus Christ.
Hold on, fat guy.
Come on.
Hold on.
Come on. Oh.
Oh,
I like those shoes, dude. Those are cool.
These are my fish shoes.
I like those.
They are fish. Have you seen they shine?
They do shine.
Yeah.
Wow.
Fish shoes.
Now you can pull the mic a little bit closer to you.
Fuck you.
This is fun.
Hey, Jeff, are we
For
live?
another 10 minutes of podcasting, then I'm going to move again.
We got you right where we want you.
All right. Are you ready? We're ready. All right.
Yes.
Okay, so we're back with Travis Weller with Nourish Pierce County, which you can find at nourishpc.org. And seriously, thank you so much for spending some time with us. dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about some of the client stories that you
Yeah.
have for the people that attend and go to these food banks. Yeah.
I think it's So Pierce County is really big, right? A lot of different types of communities in
Totally.
Pierce County, and so the stories are really different all over, which I think is nice that we can be in sort of all of these communities. So one of the food banks that we run is in we call it Southeast. It's down at 85th in Portland. It's the biggest food bank in the county. If you picked it up and dropped it in King County, it would be the third biggest food bank in King County.
Wow.
Served over 20,000 people there last year. So one of the clients there is she and her husband are taking care of their parents, right? And so that's pretty common. We know that sort of situation's happening more often where people take care of other people in the household. And she doesn't work full time because she's taken parents to doctor's appointments and things like that. And her husband is a full-time mechanic. And so they started coming to the food bank because they needed a little bit of extra help. Another example is one of our regular volunteers now down at our Lakewood food bank. She went through some medical situations and got into some medical debt and ended up losing her house over it.
Oh, damn. Jeez,
And
yeah.
so she started coming to the food bank as a client because she wanted a little bit of extra help, right? When she was homeless. And she was homeless for 5 months.
And that kind of sort of that food insecurity thing makes sense
Yeah.
because you don't know when if something like a medical emergency is going to happen.
know.
And I mean, seriously, I don't know about anybody else's health insurance here, but mine isn't necessarily
Right.
the best.
Yeah.
And when you get hit with a deductible that is like amazingly high for a lot of these things, and you get stuck on something,
Yep.
you feel like you're trapped. And then
Yep.
at that point, you have like, well, am I going to pay this bill, or am I just going to have to that's just going to go to collections and ruin everything, and
Yeah.
then it's that downward spiral, or am I going to eat?
Yeah.
Which is it's a brutal choice. You shouldn't have to have
Tend
that
skip
choice.
the bill, right?
Yeah.
So you can have a meal. So yeah, that's one reason that we're so happy to be around, right? Food is one of the first things that people think of. And if they are not sure if they have a place to get a meal, then they may skip things like get back like their rent payment or
Yeah.
their medical bill or a utility bill, right? And then you get behind on those things because you skip that in order to eat.
Yeah.
So if we can get you sort of that like stable level,
Yeah.
then you can help figure it out.
Well, when we were at our poorest, when my daughter was like 5,
Yep.
right, and we were on the WIC program, which
Yep.
WIC is great. You know,
Yep.
it gets you your peanut butter, your milk, gets you some eggs.
Yep.
But you knew how much money we were making as security guards,
Oh,
and
yeah.
just horrible gigs.
Yeah.
Less than what minimum wage is now was
Yeah,
still
absolutely.
a good job in my eyes back then. And we would go, and that's where it didn't have to be an everyday thing. And it's not like I couldn't, like my parents would help what they could.
Yeah.
So just being young and being dumb and not having any money.
Yep.
And it was just nice. You could go get, rice. They had lots of rice, came in big bags.
Yeah. Yep.
And I loved rice. Got grits.
And they had lots of
Ooh.
nice things there, and the people, like, you could tell every person that was there helping you knew exactly that they didn't care if you needed a little bit of help or maybe you were stuck in a terrible life crisis.
And
I loved it. It was very nice of them to do that for me.
And I think that's a really good point too, because everyone has their own specific story as to why they've gotten there.
Yeah, every single person.
But
every story
by
is
and,
different.
but
Yeah.
by and large, that's not necessarily. It's not it's the reason why you came in, but it's not the reason why you're being helped. It's like
Right.
we'll find the needs that you need for nourishment wise, literally nourish the whole county. You want to be able to do this,
Yep.
and it's not like I remember doing the Bachelor life and my buddy being like, "Well, I got my 500 calories from my Hostess pie."
Right. Yeah,
And
exactly.
By and large, empty calories that aren't going to be helping anybody out at that point.
Yep.
But you're looking here to actually be a healthy alternative, so that
Yep.
those kids who have to get this are getting the brain food they need, so they
Right.
can sustain themselves. Because food is the basic block for the pillar of success, really.
Yep.
When you're looking at all of
Yeah.
this, if you have a good meal, then you can go to school, you can focus, you can
Yep.
get better, and hopefully through all of these things, go do your job and get yourself back up on your feet by being able to do this.
Yep.
Well,
and I think.
sorry. Go ahead.
Well, so I think that's also a good point. We don't just. I mean, we sometimes have Hostess cakes. Like that's okay.
Oh,
too,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Hostess cakes are delicious.
Oh yeah, they're great. But
no problems there. But we do try, and so we give out like we call it a complete basket, right? So
Yeah.
you'll get a protein option, you'll have a vegetable option, and sometimes it's canned, and sometimes it's fresh. And that's another way that people can help out, right? Like we're coming up on spring. If you've got extra room in your garden, you can like plant an extra garden plot and then partner up with the food bank that's closest to you. With 24 spots, we're probably got at least one that's close
Well,
to
that's
you.
what the hippie that I rented that house from did.
Yeah.
He,
Yeah.
he
Yeah,
had
see, there
that
you
garden
go.
all the way around. I mean, he would just
Did he
load up.
really?
Yeah.
Dude, it was awesome. You would go to his house, and because it's like terrace here, right?
Oh,
It
yeah,
was on
yeah,
a
yeah.
hill.
Mm-hmm.
He had gardens all the way around.
All the way around.
And I
Nice.
loved it. I would go. Brogan was like, "Yeah, whatever. I don't want your squashes." And I was like, "Dude, these are awesome.
Like
This
a
guy's
million.
awesome."
We'll
he'd give
take
me
your
like a million
squashes.
squashes.
Yeah.
They were delicious.
Well, he would pile them up on your doorstep.
Yeah. It was like they call him the squash fairy. But that's what he did because he didn't.
Yeah.
Need, I mean, they traveled more than they did anything else.
Yeah.
They'd garden in the summer and they just donate all the food.
Yeah.
Yep.
that's an interesting point too, because I know that there are a lot of community gardens as well.
Yep.
And so if you are in your community and you know that you have a community garden,
Yep.
maybe look into getting a plot for that, and you just be like, hey guys, can we set these ones aside
Yep.
for specifically the food banks?
Yep.
And it's a good, cheap way to be able to do that. And if you love gardening, that's a way that you can help out without doing a lot of the volunteer work that maybe you don't have enough time to do.
Right. Yep. Absolutely.
And you mentioned that this is spring, but this is literally like a year-round venture.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that during like the holidays, the quote-unquote giving season,
Yeah.
people would be more inclined to donate. But you need donations and help all year round.
Yeah, so like I said, we're nearly entirely dependent on donations and grants from the community, right? And so we do. People are very generous around the holidays, and we really appreciate that. But there is a need for food donations as well as those funds year round, so we can keep the doors open. We are there every week. We have spots 6 days a week. We try and do nights and Saturday spots too, so that
Nice.
people who are working can visit. And so we try and be really accessible so that we can meet people where they're at.
And all that information available via the social
Yeah,
media,
yeah.
nourishpc.org.
Yep.
A lot of different ways to do that. And if someone, maybe local business, wants to help out, or if they are maybe a manager for a larger business that
Yep.
they want to be able to help out, they can do so as well, correct?
Yeah, so businesses, we get a lot of donations and things like that from businesses, both product and funds, which we're very appreciative of. We have our auction coming up.
Ooh, what's that? What's going on with that?
May. Yeah, down at the Hotel Murano, we do our annual our auction. We have a band in, and there's a dinner, and it's our big fundraiser for the year.
Excellent. So people can find that on the website as
Yep.
well.
Mhm.
Plenty of time in order to get that, because this
Yeah,
will be
yeah.
up before that. But if you end up downloading this podcast after that, check out, because I'm assuming you have events going on a lot
Events
of
all
the time.
the time. Yeah. Yep.
And finally, I kind of want just you to throw out some statistics about what's going on
Yeah.
with what you do, and just like the hungry people in
Yeah.
in Pierce County that you are helping out, or
Yeah.
even just dealing with.
Yeah. So big picture, Pierce County does have an issue with hunger and food insecurity. The estimates that come out from United Way are about 100,000 people in Pierce County are food insecure, right? So
Wow, yeah.
there's some uncertainty about where that next meal's coming from. And 25% of people are employed but not able to like make ends meet, right? So the term is ALICE, asset limited, income constrained, and employed, right? So you're have a job but not able to make it stretch. So last year we served about 61,000 people across the county, which is 7% of Pierce County got food from one of the Nourish food banks. Like I said, we run the biggest food bank in the county down in Southeast Tacoma, but we have one in North Tacoma, and we've got one out in Browns Point and Edgewood and Lakewood. We try and be where people need us.
Wow, I mean that's that's a large amount of people.
Yeah.
That 7% of people who will be using you. That I mean, look down your street and like each of the houses, and there's going to be one or two of those that are potentially people that are getting help or that need help and maybe don't know about it.
Yeah.
And so get that word out from anybody
Yep.
out there. If you're, I mean, everyone's a part of a community Facebook page.
Yep.
Like if you just go out there and just share just the link on that and say these guys are doing good stuff.
Help your neighbors find us. Yep.
Exactly. Do all of that, and it's very important. We need everyone out here to be kind of on the same level at some point, and
Yeah.
at least starting with like the bottom. It's like, hey, the best way to
Get a
start
meal.
it off is exactly, get a meal and make sure and that happens with everyone out there. And if you're getting your meals and you're finding your meals, help out either through volunteering, donating foods, canned meat in a trunk, not necessarily
Trunk
just
or
the
no.
steak,
Yeah.
the steaks that you've got.
Boot meat.
We don't need any boot meat.
Yeah, no, yeah, we're so appreciative. This, like I said, this community is incredible. We've really, we're that avenue that people can use to help people who are in need.
Awesome. Travis, again, seriously, thank you so much for spending some time with us on this. Nourish Pierce County, nourishpc.org.
Yep.
Please check this out. Even if it's just sharing on social media, you'll get the word out, and that really does help with everything.
Yep.
If you can donate, please do so. And check them out. Having the big fundraiser in May, and all the events, all the locations are available on the website.
Yep.
Again, Travis, thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
And again, you guys, thanks for listening to us. info@gritcitypodcast.com. Let us know if there's anything interesting that anybody